You've got three stages. You've got the pre-work, which is the work I do on myself to be ready to go into the interviewing world, much like I would prepare myself to go out dating, I guess. And part of that is getting ready for a specific interview. Then there's a second part, which is now you're in the interview. What are the best tips? How do you build that relationship instead of performing? And thirdly, you've got what happens after the interview. And we're going to touch on rejection and ghosting and all those horrible things that are happening right now. So the first part of the pre-work is working on myself to understand what my values are, what my principles are, what my non-negotiables are, in order that I can find the right, work partner. I'd love to explore that with you and find out why that's important, and also ask you, if I'm desperate, I just want a job, any job, to what degree are my non-negotiables and my principles really important? And should I just put them aside in the interests of getting a job?
So it's super important in this alignment process to focus on what we want, because it helps us to attract better opportunities to ourselves. It helps us to be really clear on what good looks like in our mind. You can't judge something as pass or fail unless you've set the criteria, right? And
Right.
at the top of the call, we were saying each party's judging. They're either saying pass or fail, the interviewer or the interviewee. So you need to do that pre-work, because if you haven't set the criteria, how do you know if it's a pass or fail? In a couple of weeks' time, when they send you the job offer, how are you going to know whether you really want to accept unless you think, okay, this aligns to my values, like my beliefs. This job's really interesting. The people feel really dynamic. We've all got sub criteria, but we need to be clear on what that actually is before we go into the process, because otherwise we start a process and it can be very blurry. It
Mm.
can be very unclear to us whether this ticks all our boxes. And yeah, some of those, taking that scenario of negative experiences before, we need to also be aware of what our existing and current beliefs are about old relationships or jobs that we've had, such that we don't bring that baggage into the new relationship with us. So if I've had a horrible boss, and my new belief is like most bosses are awful.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
something very sweeping like that. Then when I meet my new boss in an interview, what might I do in terms of behavior and approach? How might I communicate? Will I be as open,
Yeah.
transparent, and trusting as I normally am? Or will I view this person as a potential enemy because I have this negative belief about them, which has nothing to do with that? It has something to do with,
Yeah.
someone maybe 25 years ago or what have
Yeah.
you. So, so it's really important to do all that pre-work to kind of be as prepared and clear of baggage as possible going into an interview.
Yeah. So it will change the way that you show up. And one thing that I do, and I just love to hear your views on whether it's a good or a bad thing, but um, if I'm interviewing, um, what I like to do is to have a set of principles. How do I operate? What are my principles? What are my core beliefs at work? So, for example, I've mentioned it a few times, but I have a thing called customer, company, team, self. That drives a lot of the decisions that I make. And I find that having those principles in my mind, when you're in an interview and it's stressful and you're thrown a curveball question, instead of panicking and almost making something up on the spot, I just go back to my principles and say, yeah, my principle says customer comes first. In this context, here's how I'll answer the question. I found that useful. Is that a good ploy?
Yeah, I think that's really useful. And the other word for principles is values, right? So
Yeah.
what's important to you, how you like to operate, how you like to be known or recognized or, appreciated. And I think essential pre-work for an interviewee would be, um, identify your values, what's important to you, identify your beliefs. So the beliefs, you want to let go of any negative beliefs that might hold you back before the interview, like literally shake them off, rewrite those beliefs. Um, Most beliefs typically aren't true. So if
Yep.
you were going to really deconstruct them, you could find the level of untruth in them and let them go. And then the values you hold on to for that interview scenario, and you can build them into your answers. And it will make your answers more authentic, more congruent, more passionate as well. I bet when you talk about customer obsession like that, you come across as more smiley,
Hmm.
energetic, more engaged in the answer because it's fundamentally something really important to you. Um, and yeah, we're best talking about the things we value because it's the things that excite us.
I've also found if when they ask, sometimes somebody will ask you a question almost to deliberately throw you off and sort of double check what you've said. And if it's not coming from a place of value or principle, you may change your answer or sort of react rather than answering. But if you've got these principles and values in your head, you can just listen to the question and say, no, actually, my value is this, and therefore I
Mhm.
will reiterate my answer and give another answer. Um,
And what happens when you change your answer, Jeremy?
what I meant was, sorry, I didn't mean change my answer. Actually, I didn't mean that. What I meant was answer the different question, but by coming back to the same points of principle. So actually, I'm
Mhm,
being consistent, even though the question may be different and the content of the answer may be different. I'm
mhm.
coming back to a place of value. So, it may be, again, if
Yes.
you say customer value, it's everything comes back to customer value first. And therefore
Mhm.
my answers are consistent and I'm showing my true self.
And if you didn't do that, if you did change your answer,
Yeah.
you could potentially come across as ingenuous,
Yeah.
the level of disbelief, like there could be it could create a red flag moment for them.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
that
And,
doesn't
and
sound.
also, if you're asked that challenging question, you may feel challenged and then think, oh, actually, maybe my answer was not the right one. That wasn't what they wanted. Let me try something different. And so then you might say, yeah, again, if I use the customer first thing, I might say, actually, no, it's really important that you drive your own career first and don't worry about the customer. And I'm almost now trying to find the answer they want
Mhm.
rather than being me and being consistent. So no, 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 no. Customer first is the thing.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so your values should hold you to your truth, and it should help you keep in line with your answers, right?
Yeah.
Talk in a
Yeah.
way which is in line with your principles and what you believe. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess it's heart, it's truth rather than manufactured. I don't want to call it a lie, but yeah, you're talking from truth. You're talking from a place of
Mhm.
truth and honesty. And this is it.